Got Ian Olson from Pointerra finally joining us here on Coffee Microcaps. Ian, good morning.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here, and great to see so much West Australian talent on your
Yeah,
on your program today.
we got a hat trick of Western
Yeah.
Australian
Also,
CEOs today.
thanks to Finola from RaaS Research Group and for your organisation for putting this on. I can see some familiar names in the attendees list, and so thanks to those people for joining, and also for the people that are going to listen to this in a recorded sense.
Yeah, Ian, if you just want to share your presentation, I'll let you know when
I will do that right now.
screen.
All right.
Yep, that looks
How
good.
are we
Ian,
looking?
you can take it away.
Awesome. So the theme here today, I guess, and I've been interested to listen to some of the other people present. The theme is obviously the quarter, so we will reflect on that. However, we've done a bit of a deep dive earlier this week with Finola, I should say last week, and there's some links on the ASX release today about that. But what I wanted to do, given that there was perhaps some people new to our story, was just give a recap about Pointerra and why we exist. So we exist because a group of people came together in 2015-16, faced with a potential solution to a common problem. And that common problem was working with 3D reality capture data. And some of the Nearmap founders, some very clever software engineers and mathematicians from Rio, and some people with the geospatial sector experience came together and imagined a different way of working with 3D data. And the problem is massive. The problem was massive back in 2015-16. It's even bigger today. And what we did was took some proprietary algorithms and we deployed them to the cloud. We built a SaaS business model on the front end of that. And we now talk about digital twins. Back in the day, we spoke about we spoke about data as a service and getting your data into the cloud so that we could help you access it and share it and move it around, and that led to natural conversations around, well, why are you spending so much money acquiring this data? What are you using it for? Well, people use remote sensing data, whether it's 2D or 3D, to manage their physical world. So imagine you've got an asset like an electric utility network. It's spread across 10,000 square miles. There might be 4 million poles. And part of keeping the lights on and meeting your service obligations and keeping your customers and regulators happy is knowing the condition of every single pole. And given that they deteriorate rapidly, there's weather events, there's vegetation encroaching on them, people put buildings and structures in the way. The only cost-effective way to understand the condition of the network on a regular basis is to use remote sensing data. So what does that mean? Satellite imagery, airplanes, helicopters, drones, vehicles, tripods, backpacks, tons of different capture modalities, 2D and 3D data. The common theme is I need to spend a ton of money to understand the condition of my network, or my rail network, or my road network, or my iron ore mine, or my oil and gas platform, so that I can figure out where the failure points are. I can direct my repair and maintenance expenditure, and I can get on top of sustaining CapEx and try and optimize that. So that's what Pointerra 3D does. We built a platform, we take people's data, we host it in the cloud, and then we build analytics solutions to help them interpret the data and get the answer faster. So we are, in essence, a workflow solution. So you take away all the hype, all the AI, all the 3D, all the nice buzzwords that people like. What we do is shrink workflow. So we help customers who, our largest customer in the US spends $20 million US per annum acquiring remote sensing data. And they were used to waiting 3 to 6 to 9 months to get the results from that data. So they'd contract an aerial contractor or a mobile contractor to fly or drive their network, and then they would wait 6 to 9 months to get the answers. Pointerra 3D shrinks that workflow from 6 to 9 months down to weeks and days, and for smaller captures, hours. So our business is all about shrinking workflow. And our mission is to help people who need to use remote sensing data to manage the physical world to do it more simply and easily. So our branding and our tagline about simply faster is straightforward. It's incredibly complex and tons of desktop workflow, tons of desktop software packages to interpret 3D data. We've simplified that by putting it in the cloud, and we do it faster than just about anyone else on the planet. We go to market with a tiered solution, and we start with Pointerra 3D Core at the bottom of that value pyramid there, and that's effectively the foundation of a customer's experience with Pointerra. We get customers, they trust us with their remote sensing data. We deploy it in the cloud, and we sell that on a per seat and data limit basis. And that's a really sticky, because it replaces the existing way that customer might have worked with remote sensing data and digital twin data. By implication, adopting Pointerra and adopting Pointerra 3D Core means that they've fundamentally changed their workflow. And when you bake your platform into someone's daily workflow, it becomes very sticky. So that's our wedge into most organisations. Sometimes, however, the analytics piece, which is the next stack up, becomes it can be the tip of the spear. And that's where customers have massive programmatic needs, where they might be flying or driving an entire network and need an answer very quickly. However, the analytics is built off foundational data, and the digital twin that we build for our customers still needs to reside in Pointerra 3D Core. And of course, Pointerra Answers at the tip of the value pyramid there is about business intelligence. So when you've got incredible detail for a customer on a pole or on a street or on a suburb or a neighbourhood or a county or a state, that's fantastic for the ops teams. That's fantastic for the engineering teams who care about that level of granularity. But there are other parts of the organisation that focus on risk and planning and disaster response, and they're interested in network-wide views. And so we've built Pointerra 3D Answers, and that manifests itself in different nomenclature for different sectors. But the market-leading product we've got at the moment for the utility sector is Utility Explorer, and that really gives the executives of an electric utility a utility-wide, a network-wide view of the health of the asset. It allows them to run scenarios dynamically in the browser and really understand what the data is telling them. And it's particularly valuable when the utilities commit to regular data capture programs, because the most value you can get out of remote sensing data is change over time. So what we're all about is understanding change over time, using that to get into predictives. And for anyone who's been involved in asset management, predictive analytics are the holy grail. And that's what we help our customers do. So regardless of what they're doing, why they're capturing remote sensing data, what they're doing with it, what questions they're asking of it, and what they want to know about their asset, we build and deploy analytics and business intelligence solutions that shrink the workflow. So I've got the data, give me the answer. I'm not actually interested in the data. I just want the answer. But the workflow and the time frame that people have been familiar with and have put up with over many years in terms of the wait time and the loss of efficacy of that data is quite stunning. And so when you can introduce a value proposition that shrinks the time it takes to get the answer and do it accurately and quickly and repeatedly and scalably, we believe we've got an incredible value proposition. We came up with this solution back in 2015, and we deployed into the cloud, and we had our MVP in 2017, started signing up customers here in Australia, and popped off to the US in the middle of 18 and took advantage of the massive opportunity there for the electric utility sector. But through this journey, and up until last year, it was on a fairly traditional trajectory of growth, and then we hit a bit of a hiccup last year when some of our US utility customers sat in rooms and undertook planning exercises for a year instead of doing their usual data capture programs. We've been really disciplined around the way we're scaling our business. First and foremost, it's people. The reason we exist today is because a group of people came together. It's not because there was a technology solution. It's not because of the cloud. It's because a group of people imagined a different way of helping people manage remote sensing data, build digital twins, and manage their physical world. So we've always invested in R&D, software engineering, and our dev team ahead of product and ahead of sales. And even today, the profile of our team is heavily skewed towards R&D, product development, and so you can't sell what doesn't exist, or you can try, but we see a lot of people out in the marketplace purporting to have hands-off fully cloud solutions, and the reality is a lot of them have mechanical Turks behind the scene, pumping away at desktops and pushing results to the cloud. Pointerra was conceived in a really disciplined manner as fully hands-off, fully cloud deployed, data in, answers out. So as we've scaled through 2018, 19, 20, 21, we've really identified and had some great success with the US utility sector. That's given us a roadmap for how to build out that product stack from the slide before, and we've leveraged that experience into other sectors. So what we've also determined is that each of our 6 market sectors, our go-to-market sectors, have an enormous total addressable market. And just focusing on Australasia and the US without thinking about the recent moves into EMEA, the TAMs in each of our sectors are well north of 100 million US ARR. So it's incredibly prospective. We know what needs to be done. What we need to do now to scale the business is to hire some more fantastic BD and salespeople who can get out into those sectors, have domain knowledge of those sectors, and talk with authority about the problems, and then show how Pointerra 3D solves those problems. We've always been very, very careful about how we manage our costs, and we've scaled our team in conjunction with the rate in which our customers spend money with us. And so we're not far from the point where operational leverage starts to emerge, where our growth in our cost starts to flatten off and create operational leverage, which translates to earnings and happy shareholders. And I'll come to that a bit later. Just quickly on the market sectors. When we started the business, we were very much focused on survey and mapping and AEC, because that's the area that a lot of us came from. The new map guys obviously were from the mapping sector, whilst the Rio guys were from the natural resources sector. They were very much engineering, software engineering, maths backgrounds, and obviously it's the foundational sectors that generate and use 3D and 2D data and digital twin data to map the world, and then design and build the assets that the people on the right hand side of the screen are interested in and own and manage and operate. That's where we started the focus. And indeed, those customers are incredibly sticky. They tend to be a lot smaller. The AEC customers are a bit bigger, but the survey mapping sector globally is very disaggregated. Lots of really small businesses, but it's very viral because they're capturing data across the different sectors: utilities, transport, resources, and defence and intelligence. So we get to see lots of new opportunities emerge because those survey mapping and AEC firms are retained by those asset owners to deliver them digital twin data. And in some cases, we see data flow from a survey mapping customer to an AEC customer to an end user customer. Each of those, just to reiterate again, each of those sectors have simply enormous TAMs. And the total addressable market in Pointerra sense is what does full deployment look like at enterprise level, where you've got a ton of seats and a ton of data, and you're fully deployed into their workflow in a recurring subscription model. And we've done the maths on the different sectors, and it's really compelling. We've demonstrated that some of our US utility customers find a way to pay us $3, $4, $5 million US per annum, and our largest customer has done that year on year for about the last 3 years. So we know product market fit for us isn't a question, and stickiness isn't a question once we get deployed, once people change their workflows. So our challenge is very much around finding the right BD and sales folk to execute on those opportunities. I'll move quickly through this, but the global geospatial sector is it's a bit like the automobile industry or the tech industry, in that each year there's new software iterations, there's new hardware iterations. Think of the hardware sensors like the automobile sector. The new models come out each year, so it's very capital intensive. It's very competitive. The margins are pretty skinny, but that sector, whether it's cloud helping the software side or all sorts of technology advancements helping the sensors get smaller and faster and more accurate, that that creates a real tailwind that drives through, lowering the cost of capture, combined with the cloud makes people less afraid about big data sets. And what were real barriers to adopting 3D capture in particular back in the last decade have more or less disappeared today, where almost every large corporation is cloud deployed, whereas 10 years ago were cloud diverse. And the hardware is getting easier to use. It's getting out of the hands of the geospatial professionals into the hands of people with perhaps with less skill, because particularly the SLAM-based LiDAR units are a lot easier to use. So we're seeing this structural tailwind flow across the geospatial sector, generating more data. The AEC sector, which is traditionally bums on seats, people charging time to jobs, has been forced to innovate, particularly with the deployment of capital in the Western world in the last few years, responding off the back of COVID. We've seen in Australia massive investment in civil infrastructure. In the US, that investment tidal wave is only just beginning. The Biden administration's committed $1 trillion to rebuilding civil infrastructure in that country, and having been set up in the US since 2018, and building really strong relationships in utilities and expanding that out into road and rail and water, we feel we're really well placed to take advantage of that investment. And the only way that money gets into the ground is if the AEC firms that are going to build it and the asset owners that are going to deploy it innovate. And we just feel we're in a fantastic position to take advantage of that, but we still have to execute. So FY24 Q3 obviously was put out a week or so ago. The numbers are the disappointing bit, but the quarter was actually, for us, not transformational, but just a case of events unraveling as we thought they would. And what does that mean? It means that for much of last year, we talked about the pause in our US utility customers in the way they went about their annual capture programs, spending $5, $10, $20 million a year on remote sensing data, and then needing to interpret that. Last year, a lot of them sat on their hands with respect to those programs. They disappeared internally and figured out how they were going to spend and deploy this capital that had come through the Inflation Reduction Act, the near $1 trillion across the different civil infrastructure sectors. That caused a real ripple effect that turned into a bit of a wave for some businesses in the remote sensing, the aerial and mobile capture community, and then people like us that rely on the regular capture of that data to generate the big 6- and 7-figure subscription and program awards. So the quarter itself financially wasn't was well below par, but there was a couple of highlights there that I think signify to the market that what we've been saying is coming true, and that is that the utility customers are back out there. They're spending money. We got a $3 million contract award back in March from our largest customer. We expect more awards from that customer during calendar 24, and we expect to be able to announce further awards from existing customers and prospects in that space. But what we did, which is really important, circa this time last year, was realise that we had massive exposure. Whilst the US utility sector was running hot for us, it was great, and it was 80% of our revenue. We had massive exposure to that sector, and so when that sector sat on its hands for a year, our business really suffered. So we made a decision last year to focus some BD and some product effort into other sectors, and principally into AEC and into mining and oil and gas. And road and rail. So off a low base, but importantly, with some great success here in Australia, we've been able to secure and grow enterprise customers in Tier 1 mining, Tier 1 oil and gas, DOTs, so main roads, Transport for New South Wales, etc., some of the major DOTs in Australia, and some of the major rail networks. And just like we did with PowerCore back in 2018, we're leveraging that experience in Australia, where our dev and software engineers and product people are really close to the customer, and we're taking those learnings to the US and to EMEA, and seeking to take advantage of those significantly larger markets. So, we look forward to the balance of FY24 and then into FY25 with an expectation that we're going to see a growth, albeit off a low base, from those other sectors relative to the US utility sector, which in and of itself we expect to rebound strongly. So really the theme that I'd like to leave people with today about FY25 and for our US colleagues, the fiscal 25, which is a calendar year, is that we've got strong evidence that the US utility program delays are ending. And we know that the data acquisition programs are back on track, and that's starting to flow through into the need to interpret data. We're getting, our sales order book and our sales pipeline is as big as it's ever been in that sector. We've had fantastic early success with our resellers, whether it's the Emerson relationship, which is sort of going to result in a large number of small customers, versus the relationship with our reseller in the Middle East, which has opened up opportunities in state-owned oil and gas across the Middle East. There's some fantastic opportunities that are again going to help balance out that reliance on the US. And I think we look perhaps beyond FY24 and into FY25 with some of those larger deals and existing customers and prospects moving further to the right on the sales pipeline continuum, and we're seeing the number of the growth in daily active users across our platform, which for us is one of those North Star metrics. And as we see those platform daily active users grow, that tends to drive growth in spending by our customers, and ultimately that will be reflected in growth in ARR. Nearly there, Mark. So our outlook and a message for people to take away before I take some questions is 5 catalysts to deliver shareholder value. And that is via high margin sustainable growth in our business. So we've got 7- and 8-figure ARR qualified deals that we're working on turning, and these are from new customers and prospects that we're looking to turn into cash in the next 12 months. We've got new channel partnerships where we've achieved some early success, and we're looking for more of those strategically to make sure that we can scale fast without adding direct cost to the business. Pleasingly, in the middle there, our existing customers are growing their spend. They're not going away. Program delays are resolved, and we're seeing growth in their recurring annual spend. So, as I said at the start of the presentation, our challenge is to find the right people to let on the bus at the pointy end. So the right BD and sales folk to help us execute on these opportunities, shrink the sales cycle for a product that we know is proven and a market that we know is massive. And on the right-hand side there, what does all that mean? What do shareholders care about? They care about us delivering into what we've been talking about for the past few years, which is sustainable growth in recurring subscriptions and getting to that inflection point where revenue starts to move away from operating costs. And despite some of the noise around our cost base, particularly in relation to our GP, if you strip out third-party contractor costs that have been a feature of some of the program work over the last little while, our GP in terms of platform SaaS revenue relative to the AWS cost remains in the 90s, and our guys have done some fantastic work in lowering our monthly AWS cost, both in compute and storage, as we've grown the amount of data to more than a couple of petabytes now, I believe. So what we've got is a massive library of data, a massive library of customers and prospects. We've got fantastic training library to use AI to make our analytics smarter and faster. And we're really looking forward to delivering into the promises that we've made to the market over the past few years. So I think that's it for me, Mark. So I'll take some questions. Sorry, I ran over time a bit there.
No, you're okay. We've had questions coming in thick and fast, so I'm just going to apologise up front. We're not going to be able to get all these questions to Ian, and
that's all right.
Even if we had the full 10 minutes, we wouldn't get through them all. So I'm apologising if I don't get to your question now.
Speed dating.
Question around obviously AI, super hot. I mean, everybody's talking about it, but it's also a super hot.
You got to use it, don't you?
It's also a super hot market for talent. So a question on you getting talent into Pointerra who has the skills to leverage AI in a business like yours, which is very technology focused and is ripe for actually AI application. So maybe just a quick point.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we've scaled our R&D and software engineering teams since the get-go, Mark, with local talent. We've resisted the very attractive urge to go overseas and leverage developer pools from other parts of the world. And what we've done is go to the local universities, and this is before AI emerged, find smart kids in mechatronics, in software engineering, in computer science, bring them in and have them work in our business 2 or 3 days a week instead of flipping burgers or pulling beers to get themselves through uni. And then most of those young kids have matured into fantastic young gentlemen and ladies and have moved into full-time roles with us. So we've really grown, and of course it's those kids, those young folk, not us middle-aged humans, that are more adept and more basically grown up with the concept of AI. So we've also got some fantastic partners. Of course, AI is about building models, and to build models, you need training data. One of our big advantages is we've got one of the world's largest libraries of training data. And so when we combine what we can do with 3D, we partner with people who've got fantastic training, fantastic models for 2D data, and that just builds into the strength of our analytics solution.
I'm going to try and combine 2 questions here into one.
Yep.
It's basically talking about, the cash flows quarter to quarter, revenue quarter to quarter,
yep.
Has been very, up and down. Is that
yep.
inherent in the business? It is just going to be a lumpy business depending on when, one big customer says yes to something versus not, or as you kind of get more up that 3-point pyramid that you had, the revenue kind of will be more consistent because it's going to turn into more AIR rather than the kind of a project-based focused revenue that is kind of necessary at the start, if I can say that.
Yes. Yeah, so you've identified the bridge there and the journey into enterprise happiness, and that is you start with projects and you hope to deploy that into a recurring enterprise subscription. The US utility sector are very much project related. They focus each year, it's a project. And so we're working with our biggest customers and it's a journey to convince them that it's actually it's a recurring thing, and it's a subscription approach, and you'd be better off contracting with us in a subscription model. And that's a goal for that part of the market. The smaller end of town is very subscription based, and when we started the business, we thought we'd be here today with 10 or 15,000 customers paying us, a few $100 a month, a bit like a sort of Atlassian or a Xero model. That's kind of what we conceived. What we've realised though is that there is a bigger prize, and that's in the 7- and 8-figure ARR customers, but projects are a way into that. So yeah, you will see lumpiness, over the journey. You've seen it in the past, so that shouldn't surprise anyone. And all I can say is that as we continue to grow ARR, that lumpiness relative to costs will become less important. At the moment, we're tracking, we've been tracking costs and revenue like this, but as we move through that inflection point for operational leverage, and we start to see daylight between costs and revenue that's then expressed obviously as earnings, we'll be less susceptible to those quarterly swings.
Another question here on market structure, competition. There's a lot of large companies in this space, other digital twin providers. Where does 3DP stand in terms of competing with them and forging its own identity in the market, given you've got kind of bigger competitors?
Mark, virtually every big enterprise has had a crack at a digital twin solution or a digital transformation program. We're working with an oil and gas prospect at the moment, scoping out a possible deployment, and they've spent $100 million on a digital twin platform, and it's still to be deployed into operations. We're working with another oil and gas prospect who, and again, scoping out a deployment where they've had a go with all the traditional. Everyone's had a go, and digital twins. I guess the first point is digital twins mean different things to different people. So you can put it in a box and call it something else. Our view is that we're trying to stay in our lane. Our lane is create a common data environment, get all the digital twin data, whether it's imagery, whether it's 3D, whether it's 3D design drawings, 2D design drawings, PDFs, IoT sensors, you create a place where people, and with APIs at either end, deployed into the enterprise, people can come from other enterprise applications into Pointerra or out of Pointerra. And we basically become the glue that brings together a whole bunch of financial and operational solutions that they've currently got deployed. And what the market's telling us is that there aren't many people out there that can actually do that. They a lot talk about it and a lot put up a PowerPoint and say, this is our digital twin solution. And some of these organizations, as I said, have spent big bucks trying to deploy, and they haven't been able to. What we know and what our customers and prospects tell us is that our platform, the scalability, the performance, the always on, the ability to build really quickly, dynamically build and deploy analytics is unprecedented. So we think we've got a great blue ocean opportunity, a great moat, all the things that investors love to hear. We know the TAMs across the different sectors are massive, and our single biggest hurdle is sales execution, and that means quality people. So the focus to take the business from where it's been to where it is now and return to growth, as I said, in FY25 and beyond, is quality people.